It's not possible. I didn't say it would be easy, Neo.
All right, we're back in session at 11:11, and we have before us Mr. Green. Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Reginald Green. My DOC number is 345421.
All right, let me introduce the panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renanza. This is Mrs. Ledoux to my left, Mrs. Stapleton to my right. You have counsel with you who is here in the room with us today. Would you introduce yourself?
Morning, Ms. Renata. Jane Hogan here on behalf of Reginald Green, and I'll make a statement later with the board's approval.
Okay, great. Thank you. And with you have
Bobby Griggs.
Bobby
who
Griggs.
works on us.
Okay. All right. Joining us by Zoom, we have Mr. Myers with the Parole Project, and Mr. Myers wants to speak on your behalf at the appropriate time. We'll ask him to do so. Let me open the file. Can we find it, Mr. Green? Get to the right page. All right. First, and you've been through the process, so you know how this works. I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we'll have a parole interview with you. We'll hear from the warden, and then we'll hear from the Parole Project, and you'll be allowed to make a statement before Ms. Hogan will close it out for us. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Green, you are classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a life sentence. It's life plus 15 years. Forcible first-degree rape and attempted forcible rape. You also have on your record a habitual offender, attempted simple escape.
Yes, ma'am.
Your parole eligibility date was May 14th, 2019. You've been before the board before. It shows that you were denied in parole in June of 2020 due to a write-up. You reapplied, and during an administrative review in August of 23, you were denied. The notes also indicate that because of a write-up, but I see perhaps that write-up that they were referring to then has since been expunged.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
So,
Yeah, he had a write-up that was expunged, and so the August 2023 administrative hearing I participated in, I think that they had originally denied him, but then when they realized it was expunged, they granted.
and that's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. All right, so Mr. Green, so you've been, let's see, you were at Angola from 95 to 2011. Then you went to Hunt for about 10 years. You've been there at David Wade since October of 22.
I'm sorry, ma'am. No, I was not at Hunt for 10 years. We went to Hunt in 2011 because of the flood at Angola. We actually stayed at Hunt, I believe, 30 days.
Okay.
And we returned to Angola.
That I do see that May to June, May 16th to June 16th. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been at Wade for since October of 22.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's just get some basics out of the way. Mr. Green, how old are you?
I am 48 years old.
And you've been in jail how long?
Right now, it's 30 years, ma'am.
So you've done 30 years of a life sentence, and you are eligible under the Miller ruling. Well, I guess you went back to court. Did you go back to court and got resentenced?
It's Graham.
I'm sorry, Graham. Yeah, I have it.
automatically-
I do have Graham written down. I apologize. So tell us a little bit about what happened, Mr. Green. I noticed that at the time you were 17 of the crime, 17. And the victim at the time, how did you know her?
I met Miss Dents through just casual acquaintance, speaking to her, and from there established a rapport with her, and she became an acquaintance of mine.
How long had you known her?
Approximately 2 days, 3 days.
So you had just recently met her.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how old she was?
Yes, ma'am. She was 23.
So I won't go into the details, but the record indicates that Ms. Dennis was raped at knife point. Would you agree or disagree with the statement?
Yes, ma'am, I would agree to that statement.
Now, I noticed that you've taken some classes, some rehabilitative classes. Tell the panel what you think. Why do you think that happened to her?
There's no justification for my actions. It was a senseless crime that I committed and something that I'm very sorry for. I had the opportunity, as you see, to take some of the programming that was available, and I learned that there were factors that were going on in my life that I had no clue about. And I learned them from the risk management courses that I was taking. They entailed everything from drug usage, the frequency of it, the duration of it, cognitive distortions, poor impulse control, emotional negative states. It's a plethora of things that I learned based on that particular, that class, and it taught me about where I was at that time. And those were the reasons that some of those things happened. That was portions of the reason why, and I didn't know it at the time. And unfortunately, I made a horrible decision, and I sexually assaulted Miss Dents.
And you think it's because of, in retrospect, you realized in the classes that you've taken that it was poor impulse control? Is that what you said?
One of the factors, ma'am, was my poor impulse control, problem with immediate gratification, drug frequency, the use of it, the duration of my use. Yes, ma'am.
So were you under the influence of drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
You had taken a nap first, though, right? Hadn't you taken a nap first?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of drugs do you think you were you under the influence of?
Before I arrived at Miss Dentz's residence, I'd already used cocaine, and while I was at her residence, I used marijuana.
Mm-hmm. So how old were you when you first started using illegal drugs?
Between the ages of like 11 and 13. I want to say the very first time that I smoked marijuana, I was 13. I tried some stuff like inhalants as a younger kid, like 11 or 12, with some of my friends, but consistent drug usage started when I was about 13.
And you mentioned marijuana, and then earlier you said on the night of the crime you were under the influence of cocaine. What other kind of substances did you use and or abuse?
I also drank alcohol. On one or two occasions, I actually tried heroin, and that's about it.
What did you tell us about your home life? When you were at home, would you live with your parents?
No, ma'am. My history is I was abandoned in a house as an infant. From what I understand, I was like 6 or 7 days old. A lady found me. She began raising me. At around 5, I started experiencing, excuse me a second. I started experiencing verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and it continued on until the time I ran away from home.
How old were you then when you ran away?
I was 11 the first time, and then I ran away at 13.
And so you lived on the streets after that?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were in the streets from the age of 13 to this happened at 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to school?
I dropped out in the 7th grade.
How old were you then?
I think I was like 12 or 13.
13. So when you started living in the streets, you quit going to school.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So tell us what you've been doing. You've been in jail. How long you said? 30 years?
Yes, ma'am.
What you've been doing for the past 30 years to work on you?
When I first got into the system, I had a problem with adjusting inside of Angola. The beginning of my stay there, it was rough. At a point, I got frustrated and disgusted with the person that I was, and I tried to start making changes for myself. So I started taking classes, and it was thinking for a change that kind of like turned my mind around for me to start trying to make better decisions. And after that, I got into risk management. And when I got into risk management, I went to realizing just the first three criteria is the justifying, the blaming, and denial. And that was when I decided that I needed to make myself a better person, because I was sick of the person who I'd been. I did everything that I could, from all of the classes that I could take, but trying to prepare myself if I ever had an opportunity to get back into society, to be VOTEC ready, to have some type of job skills. I delved into community service and church. I gained a trustee status. I started working in hospice, and I just tried to do everything that I could positive.
When did you start that work?
I got my GED, I believe, in 1996. And then I started other classes. One of them, I believe I began in like 2008. And subsequently, I was placed in administrative segregation for something that I did. It short-tailed it. Then I started back in 2011. And from 2011 until now, I tried to stay on this same track.
Because I'm looking at what the institutional progress report, and I do see that you were in the risk management program from 2016 to 18. You did Thinking for Change in 19, anger management in 2017, Living in Balance also in 17. You participated in the 12-step program. Passion cultivation training in 19. When did you learn that you were going to be parole eligible, that you could be parole eligible?
I believe, I think this was in 2011, they called us, or 2012, they called us. They had a meeting at Angola. Was telling all of the juvenile offenders that there was something. They would have someone come and talk to us about, I think it was Miss Pasquarela of Citizens for Second Chances, or something dealing with juvenile offenders. I may be misstating that, but they came and spoke to us and told us about some stuff that was going on in the court system, and they were getting ready to bring us back and forth to court. And EJI, which was the Equal Justice Initiative, also was partaking in works to try to do something with juvenile offenders as well.
Right. So that's when you really started working, when you knew you might have a possibility. Would you agree with that statement?
Maybe in part, because I did try to get my GED first. I made a promise to someone that I would try to do that because I hadn't finished school. And like I said, I did try to do something else. I think it was like 2007 or 2008, but unfortunately I made a bad decision and I got wrote up and locked up for it, and I didn't get to complete it. But when I had the opportunity, the first opportunity I got, which was 2011, I started, and I tried to get back into what I could.
Well, I do see, your conduct record, as you have acknowledged, you had an adjustment period early on. You had a total, I think, of 91 write-ups, and I do see the last one in 2018 was for defiance and aggravated work offense, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
But past 10 years, I look and it's definitely clear that something clicked with you because your write-up started tapering off. You've had 7 in the past 10 years. And as I mentioned, the last was in 2018. So that's definitely improved. I do know you have the support of the parole project, and we'll hear from them in a minute, but I'd like you to tell us, what do you think your transition plan would be?
My transition plan would be to have the assistance of the parole project, and the area that I would be going would be in Baton Rouge to Global Outreach Ministries, that is custodianed by Miss Ruth Ned. I would like to stay there 6 months to a year, do whatever the board asks me to do or tell me to do. But I would like to work, give back to the community as I can, and establish from this point forward a life. If given the opportunity, I have some resources to help me, and I understand that if I have any trouble, I can actually ask from help from the parole entity itself, the officers of the Baton Rouge Police Department, YMCA's, Salvation Armies. I have a list of all of the resources that I would be able to utilize if given another opportunity.
What's your job there at Wade?
Right now, I am a nighttime cell block orderly.
So what do you do as a cell block orderly?
It's like basic janitorial skills. I clean the areas where the other prisoners live, clean the lobbies, whatever I'm asked to do by security, whatever they need, folding jumpsuits, dispensing clothes, cleaning the shower area, and whatever else there may be, I task, and I do it.
Okay. If you could, as I said, did you take any victim awareness or victim accountability training?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I actually took it, and I actually facilitated it as well.
I see, in 2019. What, if you could speak to your victim, Ms. Dennis, what would you say to her?
I would tell Ms. Dents that I am eternally sorry for the senseless, reckless crime that I committed against her, that I am truly sorry. And I'm sorry.
Okay, I understand. All right, any questions? Or Nozette, can you add anything to the conversation?
Well, since he's been here in October of 22, he has been involved in the AA 12-step sponsor group. That's what he's done as far as programming since he's been here. He does have a favorable recommendation from his work supervisor and has not had any rule violations since he has been at David Wade.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll hear from the parole project. Mr. Myers, could we hear from you?
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. Here from Mr. Green today. I would like to let the board know why we're here today. As the board, I believe, realizes that we have always prioritized juveniles convicted as adults who have served long sentences. That's one of the reasons we're here today, because we generally support them, and particularly through their reentry. And we've had a tremendous amount of success with juveniles who have come home. But in Mr. Green's case in particular, it's just been his body of work. He's addressed many of the issues of his incarceration. through the risk management program, for victim awareness, through substance abuse programs. He has addressed his education issues. He has vocational skills through certifications in masonry 1 and 2. He's addressed his personal development and spiritual development. He has a reentry plan. Those are the reasons we're here for Mr. Green today, because he has shown that, as juveniles tend to do, maturity, growth, and that is why we're here today. While we will not house Mr. Green, he will be living in Baton Rouge with Global Outreach Ministry. We will absolutely support Mr. Green in his reentry. He'll participate in our reentry program. He will be our employment enhancement team will work to find Mr. Green employment. We'll make sure that he has, especially since he was 17 when he committed this crime, we'll make sure he has the programming and the mentorship to learn how to function in a world that's going to be significantly different from the one he left. Then that includes technology and financial management, social norms, and those particular functions. He'll have evaluations through our social worker, and we'll work very closely with Global Outreach and his parole officer, should he be granted, to make sure he's successful. And I just want to let the board know that's why we're here today.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Green, before we turn it over to Ms. Hogan, is there something you'd like to say to us?
Yes, ma'am. First, again, I would like to apologize to Ms. Dentz. I would like to apologize not only to Ms. Dentz, but also to her family, her friends, the community, law enforcement, and everyone that this crime has negatively impacted. From the bottom of my heart, with the most sincerest apology, I offer it to the board and to Ms. Dentz as well. And for the board, I just say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before you today. Thank you.
Let me mention before I turn it over to Ms. Hogan about the record will reflect, and as you know, we reach out as part of the process for community attitude. The sentencing judge, the district attorney's office did not submit a comment. The law enforcement office and the sheriff's office in Orleans did not submit any comments, nor did the police superintendent's office in New Orleans. The victim took no interest in this case, does not want to talk about it. So we were not able to get a comment from her. Ms. Hogan.
Just very briefly, I appreciate that this is a difficult case, that this board has difficult considerations to take into effect, especially with cases involving sex offenses. I appreciate that this is a very difficult case. And what makes Reginald Green's case unique is that when he committed his crime, he was 17 years old. So in addition to the normal considerations, this board takes into consideration, there's also the fact that the United States Supreme Court said that sentencing Mr. Green to life forever in prison violates the Constitution. And the way that his sentence, he's still serving life, but the way that his sentence does not violate the Constitution is if he is afforded meaningful opportunities to be released based on his demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation. And so that is what the way that we've enacted the Graham case in Louisiana, as I know this court is exhaustively familiar with, is through the parole process. And this board is not just looking at what Mr. Green did 30 years ago and who he was, which unquestionably he was a horrible person in need of correction. He committed horrible crimes, so we do not dispute that. But looking at what Mr. Green has done for the last 30 years, in particular, the last decade, there's clearly evidence of demonstrating maturity and rehabilitation, not just from the programs that this board can see and that Mr. Myers mentioned, but I think also that Mr. Green's not just taking programs and learning things, he's also giving back to other people, which is a true mark of rehabilitation. He's worked as a hospice volunteer, he's been a healthcare orderly, he's been a pastor, he's been an assistant pastor, he uplifts people in his work as even though he's just been a janitor at the moment for nighttime cell block, he uplifts people on the cell blocks. He's been a cheer walker. He's always sought out situations. So he's a gospel singer. He has uplifted people through music while he was at Angola. He's participated in community service projects on the West Yard, and throughout his time in Angola, he was a trustee. He was made trustee before he was transferred to Wade. And when he got denied 4 years ago and he didn't get discouraged, he continued his trajectory. He hasn't had any write-ups in over 8 years. And all of that shows that he is demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation. He can live not just as a law-abiding member of any society that he's in, but that he will actually be giving back to people. I've spoken with the Parole Project and Global Outreach. They're excited to house him. He also has a pastor, a spiritual advisor, who's also in the Baton Rouge area, Pastor Randall, who wasn't able to be here today, but he doesn't have the family support because he was orphaned and he had a horrific childhood. And I would hope I know that this board's not going to hold that against him, but he got whatever support he's been able to establish throughout his incarceration, there is support for him. He will be closely monitored if he is granted release. He will be a lifetime sex offender registrant. So he will, if there is any issue with Mr. Green in the future, which I don't believe there will be, but if there is, he will be closely watched and he will be closely supported. So I ask this board not just to consider the typical things that this board would consider in parole hearings, but also specifically because this is a juvenile life case. And it's even different from juvenile serving life or homicides. I mean, the Supreme Court says is because this is a non-homicide offense, Mr. Green cannot spend the rest of his life in prison. So I would ask this board just to consider everything you think for life to see.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
I had to get you back on the screen. Mr. Green, I think we are prepared to vote. I'll be voting first. And Ms. Hogan's right. This is a really difficult case. I will say this, that, you know, I'm impressed with the work that you've been doing and the length of time within which you've been doing it. You know, like you said, it was in 1996, I believe, when you started working on your GED, and you've kind of progressed from there. I'm impressed with the fact that you hadn't had any write-ups since you've been at David Wade. You know, some of the nature of your write-ups concerns me, but they were early on in your, you know, during your incarceration. And as I said, in the past 10 years, we can definitely see that you've matured and that you've grown. We've had no opposition from the legal community in New Orleans. We have no expressed victim opposition in this case. My vote today is going to be to grant. You have a low risk score, and you also have a low static 99, which is specific risk assessment for sex offenders. My vote today is going to be to grant your parole to the Rescue Global Outreach Residence Plan with the support of the Parole Project. That's my vote. Mrs. Stapleton?
I agree with Mrs. Renaud's.
Mrs. Ledoux? I concur. I vote to agree. All right, Mr. Green, don't let us down. Go do good work.